Dean, obviously, starting with the team, obviously a big call to drop Ollie really obviously it was some a couple of weeks ago, but ends a streak of 130 consecutive games for the club. I guess, can you talk us through the reasoning and kind of the message you're wanting to send by making that decision?
Yeah, I think, it's obviously he's had a great career to date and still will for the footy club. But I think one thing you want the players to do is to play their role in a trademark game consistently. And Ollie hasn't been doing that. So when you don't do that, your position gets put in jeopardy. And as a footy club, we need to make sure that we're rewarding the right things. And that's why Caleb Mitchell gets a chance, because for 3 or 4 weeks in the VFL, he's been playing really strong footy and he warrants selection.
Ollie's obviously one of those guys who got a good new deal last year.
Yep.
And so does that put him in the stage where he's like, even when guys out, he needs to be leading his team and doing a little bit more on the field?
Yeah, I think that's what you expect from a player that's played 150 games of footy. And there's a number that have been in that position. Obviously, Hayden McLean didn't play not long ago. And the players that you do want to certainly play their role, fill their void, for the players that aren't out there. And they're aware of that. They need to lift in that area. And as a footy club, that'll take us forward.
Were you tempted to make more changes, or is it a matter of just waiting for a few more guys to come back and then making those calls?
I think you're always looking to change up your team and, trying to make sure the players are, first of all, doing the right thing for the team at AFL level, and then, to keep them on edge and to make them play at the level that's required. So, that's something we have to do with or without players. So that won't change from the remainder of the year as well.
What was Ollie's response? You reckon everyone wants to light a fire under him?
I hope so. Yeah, I think, he was disappointed when I said to him last night, as you'd expect. From there, it's about what do I need to do and to work through a bit of a plan about how to get back in the team and just, first of all, how to get back to playing in the form that he knows he can play. So we're really clear with that. He's aware of that, and, just come 1 o'clock in the VFL tomorrow, he'll hopefully address that.
Dean, how concerning is it that it's come to sort of, statement selection calls like that? Like, you've been, talking for weeks publicly and no doubt longer privately about sort of the things that you are asking your players to do, and it sort of doesn't seem to be catching on as consistently as anyone would like.
Yeah, I think that sums our game up. Exactly that. We're inconsistent at the minute, week to week and throughout games. And players are inconsistent with their form. So that's one thing that we need to address. We've spoken to the players about that individually and collectively, about making sure that we address those areas. And we're going to have to, because we come up against a pretty formidable outfit and a top 4 team in Adelaide.
After Mulligan, you also asked about the spirit in the team. How have you measured that this week?
Oh, certainly. I think Melbourne, as I said, post-game, their ability to do what they did around the ball and apply enormous pressure. They had 90 tackles in the MCG at over 80% efficiency. So they played an extremely tough game of footy that we weren't quite up for long enough. So I've spoken to the players about that. And the players, to their credit, they took a fair bit of the leaders and the meetings throughout the week about what it does look like consistently. So, yeah, that'll be the first thing I'll be looking at.
Obviously, the anniversary with the 2005 grand final.
Yeah.
Do you touch a lot about that spirit and the Bloods culture around that?
Yeah, we'll address some of that. I think I was fortunate enough to play against that. So what it did look like from an opposition player, and certainly the players are aware of what that team stood for and how they played through that period of time. And, there's little subtle messaging that we'll play throughout the week about how we can try and emulate some of the things that they were doing. So, we'll still focus on ourselves, but you need to certainly identify the amazing team that was.
Have they been straying from some of those key principles of Bloods footy?
I think just being consistent. I think that's probably the hardest part at the moment is, for periods, it's been okay. Like against Carlton, you go plus 30, you contest a ball against the best team. And then they'll be contest a ball. And then last week, when you have another chance against another team, you go minus 27. So, the discrepancies have been so great. And that's what we need to line out. And we need to make as consistent as possible. So, I think we always want to be a hard team to play against. That hasn't changed, I reckon, since 2000 here. We still want that. So we've got to get back to doing that.
How frustrating was the fact that in that Carlton game, it took obviously Isaac and Chad had two of probably their best games of the year. And then maybe last week when they're not at quite that same level, the rest of the team doesn't help them up. Is it a really key message to try and get the rest of the team to not just lean on the two of those players?
Yep. Yeah, pretty simply. You can't, you want your best players playing well. That's one thing that you want consistently, but, you can't rely only on that. So, where we've shown glimpses, just not enough individually, and how we can cover when certain players aren't playing at the level that they need to. So, and that's what makes great teams. That's why teams are where they are. And when we played great footy and amazing football last year, players were playing well when others weren't. So, we need to fill that void a bit more.
Is that particularly frustrating? Because I know talking to some of the players across the year, that was a bit of a key message of the pre-season to make sure that it was a team-first ethos.
Yes. It was. And that still doesn't change. I think, we're, still finding out what we want to do as a football team. And, there's going to be some challenges along the way, and we're going through them at the minute. So we'll work our way through it. Doesn't mean we don't speak about it any less or any more. We want to be really consistent across that.
And just on...
I was just going to say, I'm not sure if you saw Bob Murphy's appraisal performance on the weekend. There's very, very Bob Murphy. He said that, maybe the players were playing with broken hearts, obviously alluding to being at the MCG for the first time since the grand final, and that's still having an effect. Do you think there's anything in that?
The conversations throughout the week weren't anything along those lines. It was just a great challenge against, a team that is probably one of the informed teams in the comp the last 5 weeks. And we fell short. I don't subscribe to, going back to the ground and feeling certain ways. And the players didn't message that throughout the week. So that's someone's opinion. People will always make that. I'm aware of that.
Just on the Crows, who do you send to Rankin, and how do you shut down Joshua Shelley, who did 5 majors last weekend?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think, obviously Rankin's been in unbelievable form through the middle of the ground and ahead of the ball. And Rochelle, takes his opportunities when they're there. But not only those, you've got the 3 tools that have been phenomenal for that football club. They target them really quickly and heavily. So, ability to be able to try and support that is going to be crucial. And then obviously that doesn't take away from Dawson and Saligo and the like. That, they're where they are for a reason. We've looked really closely at the last month of the times that they've played and spent a fair bit of time in the 6 days to make sure we can get that right.
Just on your own forward setup, I know there's been a fair bit of talk about that Hayden and Joel Hamling combination at the moment and whether that's doing the job. Obviously, you've got Jack Buller in the VFL. I think Terry McVeigh he praised a lot, saying he had his best game for a while on the weekend. Was there temptation to bring him in when you've got a key forward who's played that and he's young, he's trying to prove himself, and maybe Joel Hamling, for example, hasn't played he could be footy forward over the past 12 months or so?
Yeah, there was. There's conversations all the way along. I think, the thing we say to our VFL players is it's not just 1 week to be able to go back and perform or play well for 1 week. And I think look at Caleb, and he's done it over a period of time. That's what you have to do. And, to Jack, that's the message as well. The inconsistencies in there, we need to be ironed out a little bit. And last week he was really good. So hopefully on Saturday he can put another one together and then really put his name up.
Do you think Jack's got that level to play regularly at AFL level if required?
I think with Jack, he missed all last year with a back complaint. So, and he got here the year before at a mid-season draft. So it's hard to come into a club and try and establish yourself ahead of the ball in such a really dominant position without playing it there for a while. So he's shown some really good traits to be able to do that. And now it's about trying to put that consistently across a full VFL game like he did last week for multiple weeks, and then hopefully he gets that chance.
And I think we saw Tom Papley put a video up of Errol training pretty well last night and looking pretty good on the boots. He's obviously moving well. How's he looking, and how big of a boost will be once you can finally get him back in regularly involved?
Yeah, he's going well. He's ticking off everything he has to do. Sort of noticed him a little bit. I've got some other issues I need to sort of address before we worry about when Errol's coming back. So, but so far he's ticking everything off he has to do, which is really pleasing. But, post-buy is probably the start of where it will look. still a little bit to go.
I think subconsciously there's any chance the players, I know everyone's looking forward to having the stars back who are out at the moment. I think there's any chance that the mindset might have set in for a side and waiting for that and not seizing the moments that are in front of them right now.
Yeah, I hope that's not the case. I think that's certainly what we've tried to pass on to the players is injuries happen. You see every club go through injuries or suspensions or, players in and out of form. So it's about exactly that, seizing the moment when you are there and making sure we can't wait. We're not in a position to wait. So, as a football club, we never wait. So the players they're aware of that, and everyone needs to address it.
Just quickly, Justin McInerney's 100th game, obviously missed last week through suspension. How important is it to get him back as someone who provides a lot of energy, and sort of what have you kind of has been the message to him in terms of what you want to see for this week on the field?
Yeah, it's so 100 games, a lot of footy at a football club, and Justin, since he got here, has been a real energy giver, and the personality that he has, you want to see him play with that as well. I think the ideal Justin is a really strong two-way runner, and we need to cover as much of this SCG ground as possible. And he's been in and out of the team. We need him back permanently now, not through some misdemeanors that he's missing football games. So he's aware of that, and he can't wait to represent this club for his 100th game, and we can't wait to see it.